So let's get into it. This is an article from BBC on a no-fly zone. And they say that, quote, a no-fly zone refers to any region of airspace where it has been established that certain aircraft cannot fly. It can be used to protect sensitive areas, such as royal residences, or brought in temporarily over sporting events and large gatherings. Can you imagine if they had a no-fly zone over Citi Field or Yankee Stadium or something like that? Not because they were worried about some sort of attack, but because we were in an active war. They just announced no-fly zone over Citi Field. Watch everyone just fucking freak out and throw up Diet Coke all over themselves as the Mets are currently in the middle of an inning giving up 7 runs. In a military context, a no-fly zone is designed to stop aircraft from entering banned airspace, usually to prevent attacks or surveillance. It has to be enforced by military means, and that could be surveillance, preemptive strikes against defensive systems, or bringing down aircraft which enter the restricted area. So a no-fly zone over Ukraine, this means that military forces, specifically NATO forces, would engage directly with any Russian planes spotted in the skies and shoot at them if necessary. And this is what I don't think most people understand, is that enforcing a no-fly zone is an act of war that will lead to World War III. Inevitably. You can't just say there is a no-fly zone, you have to do it. So when you enforce a no-fly zone, 3 things happen. The United States must shoot Russian jets out of the sky. If we enforced a no-fly zone over the Ukraine, if we enforced a restricted airspace, a no-tolerance fly zone over Ukraine, we would then have to shoot Russian jets out of the sky. Second, we then would have to offensively attack Russia's air defense systems in Russia when they inevitably retaliate, because Russia's just not going to let us shoot jets out of the sky. If like I get pretty angry when my brother shot down my helicopter, one of those remote helicopters with a pellet gun when I was in 5th grade. If I'm getting angry about that, I'm going to retaliate because it sucks to get your plane shot out of the sky. Imagine the United States shooting Russian jets out of the sky. They come flaming down in Ukraine. Ukrainians are posing over burning Russian fighter pilot bodies, posting them to Instagram. You have all these stories about what's real, what's not, about Russians getting shot down, Russian planes being shot down by U.S. jets. Whether or not it's true, we're going to have to engage in that sort of behavior. We're going to have to offensively attack Russia because we're going to have to shoot out their jets, one, and we're going to have to attack their air defense systems in Russia when they do retaliate. So we will have to shoot missiles and actually attack Russian air defense systems with ballistics because we don't want those defense systems shooting our planes out of the sky. And then third, Russia would then retaliate against U.S. jets in NATO territory. So I didn't realize this before I looked into it, which is fucking insane. But if you just follow the lines, if you connect the dots, if you go, okay, the United States shoots down Russian jets, the Russian air defense systems then retaliate. We take out Russia's air defense system. Then Russia sends pilots into the sky and they go try to take out the U.S. jets before they even take off into Ukraine. They shoot U.S. jets, U.S. pilots in NATO airspace, which would be an entire fucking World War III. And that is how that escalates. That's how quickly it can escalate. And again, from BBC, a no-fly zone over Ukraine would mean that military forces, specifically NATO forces, would engage directly with any Russian planes spotted in the skies and shoot at them if necessary. This is also something that is good to keep in mind. Polls are only as good as the questions and information they provide. And I spoke about this a little bit a few minutes ago, that there's a poll. There are many polls out there about the no-fly zone, but I'm going to talk about the specific trends that these polls follow. You can go look up these polls, the percentages. When you just simply ask Americans, are you in favor of a no-fly zone? The majority of Americans say yes. And I just walked by a Ukrainian restaurant. I'm in Brooklyn. For those of you who are listening to the podcast for the first time, yes, I'm a bougie Brooklynite. And I was recently in the city, walked past a Ukrainian restaurant, and I saw a sign in the window that said no fly zone, enforce the no fly zone, force the U.S. to shoot. It just said enforce the no fly zone. It didn't actually give an explanation. And people want to support Ukraine. And Zelensky has been on TV. He's been in Congress. I'm surprised he hasn't gone on like Tim Dillon or Joe Rogan and preached about the no fly zone. And had an episode moderated with Joe Rogan, Zelensky, and Vladimir Putin. But when you just ask someone, do you want a no-fly zone? Do you want X? Do you want Y? And you don't give them information about it. You don't give them the consequences. People have a very emotional response. They're like, yeah, like fuck Russia. We're for Ukraine. No-fly zone is good for Ukraine, even though I don't know exactly what it means. And that is why most polls suck. There are a few good polls out there, but most of them suck because they're just the polls know what responses they want before they ask the question. So they say, okay, how can we get most people to say they're for a no-fly zone? We'll just ask them, do you want a no-fly zone? And we won't actually tell them what it is. And most people have full-time jobs. They are taking care of kids, they're doing whatever. Like the average American isn't reading articles on what the logistics of a no-fly zone is. And so polls suck. They're only as good as the information they provide. And there are a few polls out there that show when Americans are explained what a no-fly zone is and that it is an act of war, that this is what a no-fly zone is. We have to, 1, shoot Russian jets out of the sky. 2, we have to offensively attack their defense systems. And 3, Russia would most likely retaliate against U.S. jets in NATO territory, sparking a world war. The support for a no-fly zone drops dramatically. It drops off a cliff. There's still a few people out there who support it when given the information, which I respect more because at least they're informed, making an idiotic decision. If you're uninformed making an idiotic decision, I take more offense to that because if you're gonna throw us into a fireball of a nuclear war, at least be informed about it. As I'm burning up in a nuclear fireball in New York City, that heat will feel a little bit better as I'm being incinerated to a crisp, knowing that our world leaders sent us, like they wanted a nuclear war. They were like, yeah, let's fucking bring it on, bitches. We're going to be on Mars anyway. Let's just let's fucking light the earth on fire like it's 1995 and let's go escape. At least if the world leaders were saying like, yeah, we're going to do no-fly zone. It's going to suck for all of you guys, but we're going to be out of here because when the world explodes, we'll be on a jet with Elon Musk. I would respect that much more. But when people make uninformed decisions, and it happens to be an idiotic decision, there's a lot that could have been done to prevent that. There are many people, not all people, but many people change their minds for the better when they're presented with information along with the question and background info that gives you a clearer look as to what you're responding to when you answer a poll yes or no. So most polls suck. Just know that when you read polls, whatever it is, most polls suck. They're good, the few good ones, but just know that they fucking blow. The third thing to keep in mind is that war makes money. War is a money manufacturing machine. There are weapons. There's manufacturing businesses pick up to support the war. There are contractors. There are all these things that are involved in war that make billions, trillions of dollars. And we've seen this before. And something to remember is that the US took a huge financial hit during COVID. And there are a lot of politicians who will pull on your heartstrings to defend Ukraine when all they really want to do is ignite the war machine. So if you are listening to a hawkish politician, a politician who has had a history of being pro-war, know that there's probably some ulterior motive involved in pressing people into voting for a no-fly zone, voting for war. There's a lot of fucking money at play. As we found out recently with exposés and Insider, there are a lot of politicians, many fucking politicians who have interests in stocks and other companies, and they're allowed to do that as a person in Congress. They're allowed to invest in companies and profit off of those companies when they make decisions in Congress that lead to those companies making more money, having better business. So a lot of these politicians are invested in companies that would go up during times of war, which is why you shouldn't, I don't think at least, you should be allowed to own stocks in Congress. You should be allowed to invest in private companies and pharma, weapons manufacturers, whatever it is. You are a public servant in Congress, and you willfully give up the right to profit off of your decisions when you are a servant of the public, because then you're not a servant of the public. If you're doing that, you're a servant for yourself. Hey guys, this is a quick reminder to check out Auxoro Premium, the best deal in premium podcasting. On Auxoro Premium, you gain access to bonus episodes, the unlicensed therapy series, the ability to submit topic suggestions for the podcast, exclusive Ask Me Anything episodes, and the entire premium catalog for only $5 per month. Go to auxoro.supercast.com, that's AUXORO.supercast.com, to join the premium gang today.